Hi guys, I'm Ryan Archer. I'm the marketing artist here at Cloud Imperium Games based in Austin, Texas. And I get the privilege of being here with our character art team in Austin. And so let's go around the table and kind of talk about who you are and what your title is and job here. So, David?
I'm David Jennison. I am the lead character artist here in Austin. I'm responsible for getting the characters as good as they can look and that they will work within the awesome universe that we're building.
My name is Billy Lord. I'm here in the Austin office. I'm a junior character artist. Responsible for translating her concepts into 3D and making them reach the quality bar and beyond of what we've set.
My name is Megan Cheever, and I'm the character concept artist here in Austin. I make the concepts for these guys to make all beautiful for the game.
So, Austin has now become the Persistent Universe studio, which means that we're looking at the bigger picture now. We're looking at things that are going to affect the game from Arena Commander to FPS on to everything else. I know one thing you guys are working on is character customization right now. Mm-hmm. How is that coming along?
Well, we're working closely with the UK studio because we're having to meet a lot of the same needs as they are. The differences were, we're persistent. We have to have more variety. We're not as specialized. So it's really been a matter of working with design and kind of figuring out the balance between variety and kind of uniqueness of particular pieces. The experience so far is really just trying to find that balance, making a system that where all the pieces work well together and play nice.
So what I know, Star Citizen is a very realistic game. I know that's one of the things that CR is always talking to us about. Mm-hmm. We're pushing for better visualization, better reality. How does that affect the idea of character customization?
Well, probably the first thing is fidelity, because we're texture resolution, things like that are higher in this than certainly any other game I've worked on. So there's certain things you used to be able to working on a game with lower fidelity. You can kind of cheat. You don't have to sculpt in as much detail on like the high resolution and things like that. It's kind of like working on a photograph that's close up. Mm-hmm. If you're a photographer and you're working on like close up photographs versus from far away, so naturally it takes a little bit longer to make most assets. You just have to be more careful. But certainly the realism, it's just a higher bar because everybody naturally compares it to life. So yeah, I would say just from the asset perspective.
And I think it's a situation with the customization on across the board that all the character artists here as well as the UK, everything has to be exactly like he said. It's like working with photograph. You want the leathers to look like leathers. You want the cloth to look like cloth, denim to look like denim. So when you mix and match these things, you can immediately tell what it is, and you can immediately see that it's right. And we don't hit that uncanny valley of, well, it looks like silk, but the texture is denim. Mm-hmm. You really want it to look right. And I think the fidelity has been an exciting challenge to explore and hit that mark.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun so far.
And how's that affected the concept stage?
From a concept perspective, it's making sure everything makes sense, like seams make sense, and that all the jackets can close and all the shoes can buckle or lace up like how they're supposed to and how they would in real life. So it's paying attention to a lot of real life clothing and accessories, so it's the way that we're keeping it pretty realistic for these guys to model out. And you should see some of the seams and threading that these guys put in. It's pretty ridiculous.
You should see some of the reference she pulls, man. I have never in my life seen some outfits like what she finds.
Right, right.
We come to work. We come to work jeans, t-shirt, button-down shirt, whatever. There are people out there in the world look literally like something you see out of Star Wars. You know, where it's coming across and it's like a big plastic thing coming up.
Right.
I don't know what the designers are doing over across the pond in terms of
Project Runway.
Oh, it's terrible. The world is frightening when it comes to fashion.
Well, and that's an interesting thing too. I mean, we're thinking about something that's going to be 1,000+ years in the future. I mean, we know that a lot of times we'll see like 2001: Space Odyssey, and it is nothing like what 2001 was like. I mean, that's how they thought it would be.
Very disappointing.
And that's been the big.
Same with 1984.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
darn.
been the big thing across Facebook and everything this year is where's my hoverboard? You know,
Oh,
people
yeah.
looking at
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future, and yeah, what filmmakers see of the future is completely different. And I'm still looking forward to my Minority Report screen, you know, where I can.
Yeah.
I mean, all those Twilight Zone, you know,
You just want your
episodes
glasses to
where,
break.
No, where everybody's in a bodysuit and bald, and I'm like,
That's your world.
it's not happening. Yeah. People
He's
still
looking
have
for
hair.
equality.
You
Yeah,
prepare for
exactly.
that.
I wanna
He's
blend
looking
in.
for equality.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I understand. So, I mean, I imagine that's a big challenge for you as a concept artist, right? To try and visualize how can something be futuristic but still be realistic? Like, where will we be?
Right, because we've been keeping it like as we've been talking about on the realism side. So we haven't been pushing a lot of like super sci-fi concepts like you'd see in, I don't know, like 80s sci-fi. Like it's nothing too out there. We want to keep it really grounded. So it's just finding smaller details that we can change, like materials or just subtle patterns that kind of push it to, well, it's still relatable, but it's not too far out there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of finding that happy medium between futuristic and modern.
There's only so many ways you can like fasten a shirt together, buttons,
Sure.
or
Right.
I mean, I guess we could do like laser zippers or something, but
Yeah.
it's like
Maybe on a
sci-fi for
different
the
one.
sake of sci-fi.
Imagine getting yourself caught in that zipper.
Yeah,
Yikes.
exactly.
Well, I mean, you look at
Ooh,
you know
especially
like
pants. Ooh.
half the studio, half the office here wearing Chuck Taylors, you know, and they've been around for how long? You know, at least
yeah.
since the '70s. You know, maybe even before that. I'm
Well,
not
Levi's
sure.
been
but
around for like longer than that.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sort of
Civil
stuff.
War.
Oh yeah.
Civil War, yeah.
Civil War.
When they were getting caught in the pickles.
Well, so you guys mentioned about trying to interface with other teams, like the Manchester office, and you know we have various outsourced companies and stuff. How has that been working? Working with people who are not in this studio?
It's been, you know, it's had its share of challenges. You know, a lot of it is, you know, anywhere from the standard thing of where you have, you know, people who have different experiences and bring different experiences to the game, and so they have different ways of doing it, and we all have to kind of reconfigure and figure out what's the best way for this project. To just communicating, you know, the big thing right now is, you know, working with Andy Matthews, the lead in UK, about syncing up our customization system so that we are working with the same system. We want their assets to play nice with our assets so that we can build this nice pool of library of different pieces of clothing and armor, whatnot, that'll all work together.
You know, from my experience, you know, it's been relatively easy. You know, using Skype and the different software packages we use that we can put our images up and get feedback almost instantaneously from Chris Roberts and from Andy across the pond. It's pretty easy to communicate. Now, I have a different scenario than David for sure. I get maybe, you know, he gets at least 60 emails a day. I get maybe one if I'm lucky. So.
That's nice.
Well, I say lucky, yeah. I mean,
You're
it's
lucky
nice
enough
not
to
to
get
have,
60 emails.
it's nice to not have a lot of emails. So my communication only comes into play when I have something to show. But it's always been pretty good. The feedback that we've gotten has always been what is needed to push the asset further and to make it what the fans want to see and what is appropriate for the game, which is nice because usually when you post something on the internet, the feedback you get oftentimes on forums is, you know, not necessarily for the game, but in personal work.
Right.
There are a lot of trolls in the world that don't want to see you succeed, and so it's nice to get feedback that is just meant to push your asset further and to make your art look that much better.
Right.
So that's been nice.
Yeah, and that's kind of something that I've noticed too. Working in the Austin office around artists, I feel like it's allowed me to grow as an artist. And
Absolutely.
you guys feel like having that on a global scale has allowed you guys to grow even more than just being in an art studio?
I would say absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think one pro about like, you know, the UK having their own kind of character team is that there's going to inevitably be some competition just in terms of, and that's good. It's going to push us to try to make our stuff as good as it can look. It's going to push them. So I think that's definitely a good thing.
And,
and
the way the game industry seems to be set up is the UK doesn't really hire, not the SIG studio, but the studios over there in the United Kingdom, they don't really hire easily unless you are there. So a lot of Americans don't necessarily get jobs over there. So it's nice to have people that we work with from Traveler's Tales or different studios, Crytek UK, that they've had different experiences, that they can shed light on things that we may not have experienced. Coming in here, David worked at Sony before this, so he's bringing his experiences from there. And so for someone like me who's a junior, I come in to have all these really experienced guys, these super talented people sharing all their experiences that help help me to grow.
To lunch after this.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, really good.
I hope he doesn't, because the joke was that if I'm ever fired, he's going to buy my lunch. So I hope that doesn't happen.
I see. It was a little bit of a veiled threat. Is that what
No, it was more of a thanks for the plug.
Yeah.
So many talented, amazingly talented people here.
Well, I mean, it's true. You get such a blended wealth of knowledge that comes in, and it, from where I was when I came in to where I am now, I can compare the work from then and now, and leaps and bounds, different, and it's all for the better.
Yeah, and Chris Roberts has a very high bar.
Oh, yes.
And that is what I think pushes everybody. And the trick is, you push yourself to a certain degree. You're like, this is as good as I can do, and you put it out there, and sometimes you get feedback that wants to bring it up more. And there's obviously some frustration initially because you're not getting necessarily the recognition that you necessarily wanted on that piece. But then when you go back and you push yourself beyond that, and you come back and you're like, it is better now. That's an improvement. So that's always something that's good.
Yeah, and I've seen that too. Watching you guys, and even in my own work, where you'll work really, really hard on something, and you'll show it to CR, and he'll say, it can be better. And I mean, do you guys feel intimidated sometimes showing your work to CR?
I think so. Certainly in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the beginning more so. When I started, it was very, this Chris Roberts, he's got a lot of clout behind him, in terms of, his experiences in the past, and it's like, I'm showing my stuff to him, and but it's never been with anyone. It's never been, this is bad, I don't like this is horrible, go home. It's always, like what David said. I think
this is bad, this is horrible, you're fired.
I think this can be better, and so, but it's not just this can be better or I don't like it. It's this can be better, and I think this is how you can do it, or I don't like this because of this.
Right.
And it's really focused as opposed to just, kind of the middle of the road comments. Well, I don't like it. Well, that doesn't help anybody.
Right.
We're very fortunate to not get that, and so we have good direction.
Some of his proximity, obviously, because he's not here.
Right.
Like any experience working with somebody, when they're here, it's more comfortable. It feels more like you work for a long time on a sculpture, and then you leave it out in the middle of a meadow, and you go home, and you come back the next day, and it's either got a God ray on it, or it's totally destroyed.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Birds
all
have
right.
pooped
Yeah, exactly. But
Right.
there's that's part of it. The challenge, I think, and what I've learned with this industry is the difference between being a gallery artist versus a commercial artist is how do you be passionate about your work without being attached to it. And in my experience, the difference between people that make it in this industry as an artist and don't are ones that find that balance. On one extreme, you have people who they're super passionate about their work, but they can't take any feedback because they take it so personally, and they get very defensive. On the other end, you have people who they can take whatever feedback, they'll do whatever you want, but there's no fire in their work. They don't care. They just go home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So how do you be passionate about what you're working on, but then be completely open to feedback or changes? You might work on something for a long time, and then, actually, we're not going to use that. But that's just part of it. So that's the balance I think all commercial artists or game artists have to find.
Right.
And I remember when she first started, she put her very first concept up online. David, I'm sure you remember this. And we went to lunch. She put it up right before lunch. We went to lunch. She barely ate anything, right? She was so frightened. And then she came back. Yeah, exactly. And then we came back, and Mark and David were both like, yeah, you should look on Shotgun. Oh, And it turned out that he was like, this is great.
Oh, yeah. We played a joke on her.
Yeah.
That was awful.
But she was so frightened, and you could see that in her face because, it was the same thing with everybody. I think you put your first thing up there, and you're you're scared of what's going to happen, but it's
Right.
never as bad as you think. So.
Yeah.
Right.
So mean.
Well, how have you liked working in this environment? Like, do you feel like you've grown a lot as an artist?
Oh, it's been great. So since I sit with these guys, the character artists, I've been shown the world of extreme detail when it comes to clothing. So that's been a lot of fun in pushing my own work, and just, you know, again, being surrounded by other professionals and getting feedback to push design and making sure everything's functional for everyone and nothing too crazy. But yeah, I've become more sensitive and aware of the concepts I produce, so that's been a huge growth in my own work. Just
Yeah.
from working here for not a super long time, but I've already noticed a big change. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. That's what, you know, that's definitely the benefit of working in a studio, and especially a studio with so many talented people. But I imagine this is pretty ambitious to be in the concept team for the Persistent Universe. Do you feel?
Yeah, we got a lot of work to do.
Yes. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, pretty big task figuring out what everyone's going to look like, and between NPCs and players, and figuring out what people are wearing and what that looks like in the future. It's a pretty big project.
Yeah, I think she hits on something where this is the difference between doing a Persistent Universe game and a regular game, is you have to think, to a certain degree, you feel like the founding fathers of, you know, like America or whatnot. Like, you have to think, not exactly, but, you know, like hundreds of years in the future, like, we need systems that will be flexible for expansion. But if you spend too much time with the what ifs, you don't actually make any decisions. So there's so many moments along the way you're like, okay, we got to decide on this, you know, how many pieces, or what our texture resolution is going to be, because once we decide it, and so it's a little scary, but every one you get past, you know, you're you know, hopefully finding that where you're coming up with a flexible system, but that has rules that you can form a workflow and a pipeline around that works.
I know you guys are doing great work. I'm glad to be here and be able to see you guys working, and
We're glad to have you.
Yeah.
Thanks. But so I can't wait to see what you guys come up with in the future, and I know the fans are going to be very excited to see stuff coming out of Austin in the next couple of months and over the year. So I know the fans would love it for me to tell you guys thank you for all your hard work. You guys are awesome. We're making the best space game out there.
Best
Yes.
damn space.
Best damn space game. Thanks, Billy. And so also we want to say thanks to the fans, because without them we couldn't be making this game.
Yep.
And
Thank
so
you.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for your support.